I mean, there are always these, once in a while, these little farts that slip out, and it's so funny to look at your partner's face. But that's okay. That's actually normal. What's really funny, what really cracks me up is when Ashwin tells us to go with the white belts, especially me. And sometimes he tells me to go with like this beast giant of a guy, and he may be like a week or two into training, and we go around, and once the round is done, I mean often get a submission on him, and the look on their face is priceless, Prachi. Like, it's so shocking for them to realize that a person half their size can manage to manipulate them and get a submission, and it's the realization that they have on their face that jiu-jitsu actually works is amazing. So yeah, I love that bit. Yeah. But it's also so dangerous because most of the injuries I have caught is while I have gone rounds with these white belts or people who join and are new, because they can't take the fact that a girl is managing to close to get a submission on them, so they use all their muscles and energy, and they just try to pin you down. And sometimes it doesn't work in your favor.
But that sounds so empowering, right?
It is.
And I can imagine the look on their faces. I can totally imagine big eyes and just. Hi, Meryl.
Hi, Prachi.
How's it going? How's your weekend going?
Oh my God, weekend. Yesterday felt long, but now that it's Sunday, it feels so short. And it's Monday tomorrow, but it's okay.
And you have really, really long days, right? You have a
job, you don't end.
Training. So you do jiu-jitsu and you also work in the tech industry, and we're going to talk about both today. But let's start with jiu-jitsu. Why don't you tell us first of all, tell us what is it? Because I imagine there are a lot of people who don't know exactly what it is. So if you can tell us a little bit.
Sure. Even though I am reminded on a daily basis that my jiu-jitsu sucks from Ashwin, I'd like to believe I have a little bit of an understanding. So it's basically a ground combat sport, which involves grappling. How I'd like to look at it is basically I use my opponent's strength to sort of maneuver around them and basically get a more dominant position and or get a submission. And it's not it's an art that doesn't require you to be strong physically, and so that really works well for me, or any person for that matter. So I think that jiu-jitsu is just such a beautiful martial art, and that's just what it is for me.
Strong and big also, I imagine. I mean, you don't have to be like big and burly in order to,
I would, even though I am pretty much steamrolled on a daily basis, I don't feel like I'm close to being murdered, and I am a very petty person, grappling with beasts at Warrior's Cove. So clearly being big and strong is not a mandate.
Yeah. Okay, great. So how did you get into it? How did you start doing?
So basically what happened was I got done with my undergrad from Symbiosis Pune, and I came back to Delhi. And my dad, sort of Delhi being Delhi, forced me to get into some form of self-defense. And I sort of Googled and found Warrior's Cove, and I went in super nervous, and I saw a class mostly full of boys. And there were, back then, this was 26 years ago, so it was 2014 or something, and there were about a handful of girls, as opposed to now. But yeah, it was daunting. But that's how I sort of dived into jiu-jitsu.
As opposed to now? So are you saying there were more girls back then?
There were more girls back then, yeah, as opposed to now, more because of COVID. And even though the gym has reopened now following strict, protocols and standards, there's mostly just me and one more girl, Malika, who comes into a class full of men.
So why do you think that women have not stuck around? They've left over the years.
So I have managed to convince like only two of my friends, like girlfriends, to come and at least give it a shot or watch. And I understand what they find daunting is the fact that it is already full of men, and the fact that it's a grappling sport, or it involves fighting is probably what pushes them back. And also it's everyone's sweaty and there's a certain amount of smell, and I there are a lot of factors that um sort of don't encourage them to dive deeper into it or give it another shot. um but I don't know, it's for me, and at least the few girls who do come in there, once you just give it a shot and continue to go in for a week, it's really great. But I also do understand why it's daunting, because it's grappling, and if you talk about Muay Thai, it's kickboxing. I mean, it's whatever there are strikes and kicks involved, so maybe it's sort of not looked at as a very girly hobby, and that's probably some deep rooted conditioning that our society is sort of put in there. But yeah, it's probably because there are already so many boys in there, and you come into a class full of boys and you don't see many girls get into it, so you don't think that it's for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that if there is a women only class and possibly even taught by a woman, that would be a lot more welcoming to newcomers as opposed to going and learning from a guy, from a man, and, training with the other men. I think that's a huge leap.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Even for a lot of our jiu-jitsu competitions, um, like there are basically just 5 women competing, and it's one, you don't even understand your own skills if they're good enough, because they're really just 5 girls on the competition. But yeah, I know you sort of need that that view of a good number of women in the class to maybe encourage more people. And in fact, whenever a new girl does come in for trial class, especially into warrior score, like Malika and I just pounce and put on our happiest faces and just overtly friendly, like just please just stay with us.
Yeah. So what has it been training with men? What's it been like?
um So, I mean, at least when I first joined in, it was quite a struggle. But as and when I got close to the team and got to know all of them, they're so friendly and they're so nice. Um, the great part about training is that they're not gonna treat you any differently being a girl. They will still, put in all the efforts and knowledge and skills that they know, and whatever, go grappling with you and go the rounds that you're supposed to go. So that's great, but also exhausting. At this point, I'm not really faced by the fact that they're all or mostly men. I'm just so used to training with them. They're all great friends and great teammates. But like, so I joined in, and then I'd taken a 5-year break. I'd gone back. I'd gone to do my masters and work and adult stuff, responsibilities, and then I came back to India and joined back Warrior School. That first day was so scary. And it was nerve-wracking. I remember driving to the academy and I was practically shivering while holding the steering wheel. Yeah, the initial nerves were there, and I don't even know why, because I already knew the people in there. But yeah, I don't even know how to explain that. But it's great. I don't know, I love jiu-jitsu. It's probably the only reason I managed to get up at 6 in the morning to go train.
So you start your day at 6 in the morning, or do you work? Your work hours are also.
So yeah, so I work on the Australian time zone because I work with an Australian mining company. Some days I have calls that start at 5 a.m. and I try to wrap up the calls and I try to schedule my meetings around training. Most of the times I do manage, but sometimes I have to maybe miss one training session. But we have a morning training at 6:30 a.m. for which I wake up at 6, and that takes about an hour and a half. Then I come back home, work, and then we have a noon class which I go for again. And then you also have to invest time into drilling what they've taught in class, and then do some weight training so you're not as prone to injuries as you would be usually. You take out time to stretch. And yeah, a big chunk of my time goes into training despite having a full-time job. And every day I think I'm going to lose my job, but trying my best to juggle both.
I think you're doing a great job.
I hope so. But yeah, you sort of have to be on your toes, especially with training, because some of these guys have practically dedicated their lives to it, right? And they put in their hours with full dedication, but you also don't want to be left behind, because otherwise when you're training and rolling with them, you're practically just getting mangled, and that's a terrible feeling. So I try my best to survive each class and put in as many hours as possible into drilling so I can keep up with them. Yeah.
So was it challenging for you to, assimilate and make your space in this very masculine space that you're in? Doing a very masculine thing too. Was it challenging? And if so, in like what were the challenges that you faced?
No, for sure. Pretty much every day it's challenging, Prachi. In fact, at a point, I was talking to Ashwin about this, that it got so exhausting, and like every bone in my body was hurting, and I was just trying to figure out why, like if like why I'm continuously going in. And I told him I figured the fact that like I don't want it to be a boys club, so I really just push myself to go every day just so that there's at least one girl going in, and it's just, like I said, not a boys club, and I can just have some girl representative going on in there. Yeah. And he said, bro, if that's motivating you, then just keep that as a motivation. It's all good as long as you keep training. And yeah, some days that's what's pushing me. But some days I feel like maybe I am improving, and so then I keep going in to get better. And these competitions also so fun. So that's a bit motivating factor. And yeah, the fact that it's at so now I'm about 2 years into training, and I'd like to believe that I at least pose as a little bit of a challenge to the other boys in the academy. So that's great. After rolling, when like after a round is done and they come out in sweating and saying, oh, that was challenging to submit you, it does feel a bit good. I feel a little better about myself. So yeah, little motivating factors here.
Yeah.
Going.
Yeah, that does sound like an exhilarating feeling. And all these guys are so big and you're so little, and when that happens and when you give them a good solid challenge.
Yeah, look for those little openings to just squeeze out of and then catch your breath. That's really just what I try to do.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So do you think, because Mohit tells me this, that if you're smaller in size, you do have an advantage because you have more space to move around and maneuver your way out or in or whatever. Exactly. So you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah. And do you feel like women are just generally, women are generally more flexible than men are?
Yeah.
Right. Our range of motion is a little bit more.
Big advantage, yeah.
Yeah. So like, what are the other advantages? Are there any other advantages of being a woman?
See, I mean, I won't say I have. The only advantage at this point I see is that I have a woman's locker room all to myself. There's no other advantage I enjoy in terms of training or grappling. But yeah, exactly like Mohit pointed out, being small has its own advantages because you see these little spaces you can squeeze out of. Honestly, the fact that they're mostly just men in the academy, what really helps is that when I've only competed once, but I feel like the fact that I am grappling with men who are comparatively stronger than me, it does give me a bit of a edge or advantage when I grapple or go on for do jiu-jitsu tournaments with women. So like maybe I feel like I'm better at maneuvering around them, and I've gotten stronger. So that's I feel is going my way as a good advantage. But yeah, in terms of training, Ashwin makes sure that there's like I have he doesn't give me any edge over anyone else that way. Like it's all equal. He basically, even when he throws us to go with the white belts, you just say, look, if you don't want to get mauled, go all out with her, which feels great. But yeah, no, there's no, I don't get any preference like that. Yeah.
That sounds like a great place to be in,
It is. It really is.
Because it's more about what you're doing and not about who's doing it, right?
Exactly.
So, but tell me, do you train when you're on your period?
I do. I do. And it's yeah, it's pretty bad because I use menstrual cups, which is very helpful, to be honest, while training. And jiu-jitsu, when I am going on, like, whatever, grappling with someone, and there's whatever a 5-minute or 10-minute round going on, and more often than not, if it's a strong person, they do obviously get a dominant top position on me, and many a times they put their knee on the belly, which is something that happens while you grapple, and that is so painful. But then there's also so much adrenaline rush going on, and you're focused on just trying to escape, that you really just realize at the end of the class, I mean, the pain only dives in at the end of the class, but by then it's fine, you're done with it all. Yeah.
My stomach is feeling funny just listening to this.
It's actually really bad. You're mostly just conscious that you're not, bleeding and you're not leaking, or your pants aren't red, or the mats don't get red, and so that worry diverts. Like there's no pain. You don't think about pain then.
Yeah. Okay, so a side note. Tell me all about menstrual cups, because I've been thinking for the longest time of switching to cups, and I don't know, like I feel a little reluctant about it, but like tell me.
They're a life changer. Honestly, it's crazy. I mean, it's so easy. One, and it's a cup that lasts very long. You really just have to boil it and disinfect it at the beginning and end of your period cycle. But sometimes pads used to make me feel uncomfortable, and then I switched to tampons, and that was also making me feel a bit like I knew I was wearing something while training or something. I mean, training or doing any other physical activity, right? But with cups, more often than not, I forget that I have periods till the pain kicks in. But it's so comfortable once the first time I tried it, it didn't work very well for me because I didn't get the physics of it right in terms of using it. But once I really understood it, it's a life changer. It's so easy and comfortable.
Yeah.
I
mean, I asked this if anybody tells me they use cups, or they have used cups, I always ask them what it's like for them. And so I've now asked maybe like 7 or 8 women what it's like for them.
All of them have told you it's great,
except one person didn't like it. She didn't like it, and I think for her, she couldn't really figure out the right angle, and she just found it too messy and not worth it, so she went back to using tampons.
I get it. And same for me. I tried it first, and then I switched back to tampons because I was like, no, maybe this is not for me. And then my friend really pushed me to give it another shot, and then I did. And I was like, thank you.
But everybody I've ever asked, they all love it. So I think I'm going to do it. I should try it out at least once, right?
Try it out. Yeah. Nothing to lose. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. I will. Okay, so back to the mat now. Tell us the funny incident that has happened to you while training.
Funny incident. I mean, there are always these once in a while these little farts that slip out, and it's so funny to look at your partner's face. But that's okay. That's actually normal. What's really funny, what really cracks me up is when Ashwin tells us to go with the white belts, especially me. And sometimes he tells me to go with like this beast giant of a guy, and he may be like a week or 2 into training, and we go around, And once the round is done, I mean, often get a submission on him, and the look on their face is priceless, Prachi. Like, it's so shocking for them to realize that a person half their size can manage to manipulate them and get a submission. And then it's the realization that they have on their face that jiu-jitsu actually works is amazing. So yeah, I love that bit. But it's also so dangerous because most of the injuries I have caught is while I have gone rounds with these white belts or people who join and are new, because they can't take the fact that a girl is managing to go close to get a submission on them, so they use all their muscles and energy and they just try to pin you down. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't work in your favor.
But that sounds so empowering, right?
It is.
And I can imagine the look on their faces. I can totally
Like
imagine like big eyes and just, that's amazing. That is amazing. I wish you can take a picture of someone staring at you like that, shocked like the whole world has turned upside down. Like everything they knew has been proven wrong.
This does not follow the rules of physics. Yeah,
that's amazing. I love it. So now you have a competition coming up in a month.
Yeah.
Tell us all about it.
Sorry, the tournament?
The tournament, yeah, which is now a month away.
Yeah, I'm so stoked about that. Yeah. So this is a 16-man grappling tournament that Ashwin, Mohit, Rajiv and I are organizing, Ashwin being the director of it all. And it's really just picked out as creme de la creme of all the fighters in India, and they're just going to come on stage and one day and battle it out, and we're going to see who the best of the best is. I am in one of the undercard fights, so just for entertainment purposes. And so right after my fight, I'm going to put on my organizer hat and get to work. But yeah, I'm just really excited about that tournament. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And so so now I have like my employment work and I have training, and now I'm helping out with leverage, and I'm really just waiting for 18th December to come and go by so I can just take a vacation and relax. But it's so hectic, but it's fun.
Yeah, that's great. So with many hats.
Heavy hats, and I feel like I'm crumbling.
Yeah. So your training also must now be focused on preparing for the competition, right?
Yeah, it is.
So that means more hours, more grueling training, both.
Honestly, the hours of training has not changed because Ashwin and Mohit make sure that the comp team train the way they do, the same intensity through the year, be there, if there's a competition or not, which is what makes competitions less stressful, to be honest, because the training is always intense through the year. And that's great and it's exhausting, but it's half the battle won because training is always intense. And so when it's comp time, it's not like we're suddenly pulling our socks up and getting to training. It's the same all the time. Yeah,
that's great. So you work in the tech industry, which is also super masculine. Yeah. About that, do you have more women in the team?
It's just drowning in a pool of testosterone all the time. My old team, it was a team of 14 people and I was the only woman. And so again, I have to say this about the Australian, and this is when I was working in Australia, and the work culture there is beautiful. Once again, it's great. You don't really feel like you're being treated differently in any way. My new team is bigger, and so there are a few more women, and that's great. It's because it's tech industry. Women do hesitate to apply, and I don't know why, because I think it's a great field and great industry to work in. And I work for BHP, an Australian mining company, and to their credit, they have sort of made it a mandate to have 35% female representative, which is great. And so now the HR and like every team within the company is focusing on trying to hire as many women as possible. But the challenge there is, you can't just hire talent based on the gender. You have to, of course, make sure they have the skill.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult thing to balance, but they're managing, and it's great.
Yeah. I think we definitely, for the tech industry, I feel like we are seeing a change. And, there are more women joining in and growing and staying. I feel like earlier also the challenge was that, maybe after a few years, after they would get married, women would get married or have babies, they'd leave, right? And across the board, but especially I think more so in certain industries, and tech was one of them. But now maybe that's not happening so much as it did before.
True. Sorry, I'm just going to walk over because someone has managed to lock himself in the balcony. So I agree. And in fact, my company's chief technology officer is a woman, and that is so great. But have you spoken to other women in the technology industry?
I know a few.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's what I mean, right? Like I also know women who are slightly older, maybe like 10, 15 years older, who joined as fresh graduates, stayed on for like maybe 2 or 3, 4 years, but then left, and they would get married, have babies, become moms, and then the husbands. And very often they would also marry somebody from the same industry, someone who's also in tech, but their career would take a backseat over the husband's.
Oh boy, that riles me up.
But now I don't see that happening.
Okay, good. True.
Yeah.
True. Wow, things are getting so much better. Even my current team, the new people they're hiring are more, freshly graduated students and mostly females, and so that's great.
Do you think that policies are becoming more women friendly?
They are, and I feel like that's also sort of backfiring a bit. Like I told you, like in my company, they have now placed this. Um, it's more like a KPI now that we need to have more of a female representative, and many managers are not looking at that as a positive because then they feel recruitment is happening based on gender rather than skill and knowledge, right? But I mean, you can find a fine balance there. There are more women coming out of or graduating from technology universities or specialization, and they have the skill and knowledge. And even like one of my colleagues from HR, and I'm sure it happens in every industry and company that women are more reluctant to apply for jobs, and they feel like they need to check a lot more boxes to be to be a fit for the role that's being advertised as compared to men. It's just that it's only now that I feel that women see that they can actually do a piece of work. But even when I joined this company, I feel like I was not up for it. I didn't feel like I was qualified, but I had such a supportive manager, and he put in the time and effort, and made sure I underwent the training that was required for me to do my job. And I think that's just really what we need from the leadership team, for that matter, just a little more patience and effort. And I think, I don't know, I feel like I'm doing a decent job. I still have my job despite, COVID, and like my organization went through a major reorg. But yeah, managed to keep my job. So maybe I'm doing something right. I mean, even though it's a male dominant industry, it doesn't matter. Like, you do the job you've given and you'll be fine.
Yeah. If you're given the job.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. I mean, performers and your performance will always outshine everything else.
Exactly.
The hindrances that women have had professionally, or the reasons because of which women have pulled back mid-career, or even in the first 5 years of in their career, is more cultural, right? Like it is a social expectation, a cultural expectation that you get married, you stop working, or you have a baby, you stop working, or if you're married, then your husband's career is more important than yours because of whatever, right? So it's not that your employer, your boss, or your company is kicking you out, but it is the society that we live in which forces or has historically um, given less importance to careers of women, which now is changing, you know and this change is being reflected in every level, even the fact that fathers are now more involved in parenting than they were for our generation, so I think that's great. But
And even there, I feel like organizations can help, because another thing that the company I work for has done to sort of aid women to continue to what they're doing their job is with regards to parental leaves. So women get up to 1 year of paid parental leave, and so do the fathers. They get up to 6 months of parental leave. So if you can take care of your employees like that, one, your turnover rate will obviously be low, and secondly, it's great. You're taking care of your employees, and if they're happy, they'll do a great job. And I'm going to do my best to stick to this company because the perks are so great, and they really take care of you, and they care about your mental health and your well-being.
Yeah, that sounds great. That really does sound that. So one last question. What advice do you have for younger women who want to either learn martial arts or self-defense, or get into an industry like the tech industry, which is so male dominated? What would you tell them?
So I'm no I'm sticking to the martial art because it's so fun. Maybe get into it for the same purpose as I did, which is self-defense. And I'm sure if you just stick it out, you'll be hooked as well. Surely there's something addictive about it. And look, I am no athlete, and I'm not born with, I don't know, great athletic genes, but it's fun. And once you get into it, once you realize that you, irrespective of size, can combat a man double your size, it's really boosts your confidence. And I think that confidence booster is what kept me going. The only other thing that skyrocketed my confidence like this was when I learned how to drive. When you realize you can just take yourself from point A to point B without depending on anyone. And same way, jiu-jitsu made me realize that I can take care of myself and I don't need to rely on anyone. Just knowing that it just does wonders to your confidence levels. And that sort of trickle down to my job as well. It teaches you perseverance. It teaches you to just keep at it, and you just inadvertently end up doing a great job at just anything, any piece of work that you're doing. It's what made me survive technology industry as well. I just kept focusing on what I was doing, kept learning new things, and then applied it wherever I could. And yeah, it just worked. Yeah.
That's great. And that face that you see when you pin down a man, expecting someone who looks like you.
Everything is worth it, Prachi. It's so priceless.
Yes, yes. I really do hope that one day you can take a picture and share it with me. I would love that.